What up, guys? Good evening. Welcome to DISENRAGE. Usually, I am joined by my illustrious co-host Jennifer for DISENRAGE. DISENRAGE is a show that we do on Tuesday nights. It replaced Nothing Remotely Controversial, where Jennifer joined me as my new co-host, and we do these shows every Tuesday night where we usually we don't talk about politics or news stuff. Like we can do stuff tangentially related, I guess, but the whole point of DISENRAGE is to talk about life and spirituality and magic and tarot cards and psychicking and crystals and aliens and whatever we feel like talking about that is of the realm of woo, because sometimes we need to feed our souls with such things. Sometimes we just need that. It's just the way it goes. And so this is not, if you are one of those people who thinks that tarot cards are a tool of the devil, this might not be the stream for you. That's okay. You can come back tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's fine. We can all have our things. But tonight what we're going to be watching actually does align with the news. We are going to be returning to, what used to honestly be pretty much the only YouTube channel that I would watch. Back in the day, back in the 2016 times, Channeling Eric was actually one of the only YouTube channels that I watched at all, and it's a channel where it's a mother whose son committed suicide, but this mother continues to speak with her son in spirit with the help of mediums and things like that. And one of the things they do on this channel that's really fascinating is they do afterlife interviews, where basically the mother will work with a medium and they will channel the spirits of different human beings that have had different interesting experiences, and they'll just talk to them and they'll interview them. And so you get to have the perspective of the spirit, the higher self of this human being kind of reflecting back on their life. And, a lot of people might say, oh, that's fake, that's dumb. Well, listen, man, I'll be honest, I was a little afraid to revisit Channeling Eric when we first started doing this, because I used to love Channeling Eric. And then I was after I red pilled, and especially on the JQ stuff, I was like, please, please, please let the interviews hold up. The very first one that we watched recently was the Afterlife interview with Hitler. I was so nervous, and then lo and behold, it actually ended up being pretty accurate. When you really looked at things in context, it ended up being freakishly accurate. We just watched we watched the Trump assassination Afterlife interview, the Trump assassin. That one seemed to be pretty good too. And so people can think it's fake, that's fine, but I think it provides us a really interesting perspective, and I think the timing is just perfect for this one in particular, because those who watch my 5 p.m. show know Audrey Hale's manifesto, the full 90-page one, was released today, and I read all of it, and I did a breakdown on my Substack, I did a breakdown on my channel. I just posted a video right before this, a 5 or 6 minute update. And so I think it's just going to be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Audrey has to say and to look at it from this perspective. And let's see how much of what Audrey says aligns with that manifesto, or aligns with my analysis of it, or other people's analysis of it. And I think it's going to be a really interesting thing. I want to give a shout out to Fluffy Cow Respecter, because I feel like Fluffy Cow Respecter is becoming one of the unexpected heroes of my community. I don't know if you guys follow Fluffy Cow Respecter on Twitter, but Fluffy Cow Respecter is going out there on Twitter and he's explaining what queer is to people, and he's explaining different leftist things to people. And I have to say, I didn't expect that. I thought maybe he was coming around my streams just to mess around or whatever, but Fluffy Cow Respecter is really listening and learning, and not only is he listening, he's going out and teaching other people. And I was like, yo, welcome, Fluffy Cow Respecter. We appreciate you. W Fluffy. Yes. The new hero of my community. The mayor of Kick. I'm excited. It's exciting when the Groypers kind of come along to play, isn't it? Yeah, everyone should follow Fluffy Cow Respecter on Twitter. Definitely do that. All right, guys. Well, let's just dig right in here, and this is more usually of a laid-back stream, and we're just having fun, and we're just taking some time out, and we're gonna start with part 1, and it looks like it's relatively long. I don't know if we'll get through all 3 parts, but we'll give it a try, and we'll just start with part 1, and we'll see how it goes. Hey, did you guys see on Twitter that Matt Walsh literally found out about Kate? Like, side note, before this gets started, it's still loading for some reason. I don't know. All my computer's slowed down now. Yep. Anyway, did you guys see that Matt Walsh has finally discovered Kate Slater? Did you guys see this? I was like, holy shit. Kate Slater. Hang on, that's still loading. I don't know why that's taking so long to load. But Kate Slater, OGs of my channel will remember Kate Slater because we've been watching Kate Slater. I actually think we've been watching Kate Slater since 2020. I know I wrote about her in my book, which I wrote in early 2021. So we've been watching Kate Slater for 4.5 years. Who shows up in Matt Walsh's new movie? Fucking Kate Slater. I've been saying for years that Kate Slater was going to be like the next Robin DiAngelo. The redhead. John, the redhead. We have a fucking emoji for her. Hang on. We have furrowed brow Kate Slater as a member emoji on the channel. I just put it in the chat. So, yup, Kate Slater. Yup. We've been following her for years. It took Matt Walsh 4 years to figure that out. I'm 4 years ahead of Matt Walsh. Just saying. All right. Just saying. Let's go back to this.
Hi, Denise Ramon.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. Good. DeniseRamon.com, amazing channel and amazing healer. And she's got her little pesky sidekick, my lovely boy Eric. Hi, sweetie, I love you.
He says, hello, Mama. He says, he says, you look beautiful today. So he
Thank
really
you.
likes the way you look. Yes. Not that he doesn't before, but he's just really complimenting you.
Oh, thank you. All right, so we'll probably pause this video. I'm telling Denise after a certain point because we'll probably make it into 2 because I don't know about y'all, but a lot of people, I mean, I have very short attention span, so I'm not going to sit there and watch something for now. Okay, so we are going to bring in, hopefully Eric, you can help, Audrey Hale. Now, let me read a bit about her. I'm sure most of you guys know that she is a 28-year-old who went by the name Aiden.
Oh, she
and
was
identified
28.
as a male.
Okay.
Shot and killed 3 9-year-old students and 3 staff members at the Covenant School, private Christian academy in Tennessee, this year on March the 27th. So all of these are from kids, oh my God, from the community, all these questions. So don't be shooting no messenger, i.e. us. So is Audrey Hale here and ready?
Eric says she's here and she's going by she.
Uh-huh. Going by
okay.
she.
She's going by she.
Uh-huh.
Well,
like I said.
That'll make it
not
simple
really
instead of
trans.
day and all that. So what are you getting from her, Denise, as far as energy, way she looks?
Well, I do pick up on anger. I still feel some anger with her.
Yeah.
It's almost like the anger is in a sense of frustration. Just like frustration within her own self. And you know, she's telling me that she's gonna cooperate is the word she said, cooperate. So she's going to answer these questions
well,
the best she can.
You don't have to answer anything that you don't feel comfortable answering. And our deal here in Channeling Eric, we don't exploit or do any voyeuristic stuff. This is just to help people understand the human experience and all things spiritual.
Yeah, and Eric is standing next to her like he's like a support system for her.
Okay, that's sweet. What a gentleman.
Yeah,
all right, now here's question number 1. These murders immediately struck me as resonating from abuse, originating when you were a pupil at that school. Is that true? Or is it from some other origin?
She says that there was some abuse, but I also feel like there was a lot of mental illness going on with her. Okay. And what I felt earlier was I felt it just not that I know what it feels like, but I got that feeling more on the schizophrenic type
Okay.
scale with that. But
Schizophrenic.
she doesn't want to say they did bad things to me. It's like she's wanting to own her responsibility to some degree, but she says, it was a very strict environment. And I'm asking her, were you mad like because of the religious standpoint from it or something? And she said she just had a lot of anger in her towards everything. A lot of anger.
Okay, so it's just a basic mental illness kind of anger.
Yeah, a lot of anger she's showing me.
Now, Denise picked up frustration. What's that frustration coming from?
Eric is telling me it's coming from, with her coming out as being trans, Eric has me the sense of feeling like she wasn't like a true transgender person.
Oh,
And I feel like this was attributed to the mental illness. And when I say that, Eric wants to make clear transgenders are not mentally ill.
oh
But
no.
in this case,
Uh-huh.
the mental illness triggered that part.
I
And
see.
it was more like she's telling me, but she believed she was trans, but she agrees with Eric that it was triggered by mental illness.
Uh-huh.
Not her being trans was triggered by, but her mental illness
Oh,
triggered her.
her identifying as transgender.
Yeah, yes.
Aha.
Was there a
Like I
split
said,
personality with multiple personality? You call it dissociative personality disorder now. I think.
guys, as I explained, this is a mother that is channeling her dead son to help her talk to spirits. Every time she says Eric, she is referring to her dead son that is also there, along with the Nashville shooter.
Was there something like that going on to explain? Well, I got the female side, I got the male side. Anything
She
like
says no. She said no.
No.
Okay.
That's not what I said. 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 They're both there. The medium is channeling both the son and the spirit of the shooter. They're both there.
What was your childhood like? What were your, I mean, was it a harsh upbringing or a loving upbringing, something in between?
She says something in between, she says there were strict rules and
Yeah.
things that you had to go by, and it was pretty strict. I don't feel like she had a voice from what because she's showing me her mouth is shut. She didn't have a voice. So,
Both
but
parents? Or was one kind of the dominant parent?
she doesn't want to really point the finger at
Yes,
one. She's
I agree.
just like a blanket
Okay,
statement
that's
with
fine.
that. Yeah.
Rumors are swirling around that there was a man at the school a few years ago involved in child molestation. First of all, is that true? Eric, you might be able to answer that question. Was there a child molester at that school a few years back?
Eric said yes, there was.
Wow. Were you molested? And like, did that and then that was a desire to exact revenge?
She's showing me that there was some inappropriate behavior there.
By the same man or somebody else?
She's not really saying, but she's also doing this like hush up, like it was hushed up, like it wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that had any rationale for any reason for your decision to do what you did?
She says yes, that was part of it, but I just, the way she's showing me, she had so much frustration in her, which was anger, but it was frustration. The anger and the frustration with it was in herself, and she felt like she shows me squeezed.
Yeah.
And she decided that would be a way to end it, is just go and just stop everything.
Yeah.
and I guess when she says
I think
stop
that's
everything, it's
pretty
like this
reflected
would
in her
stop them
manifesto.
from having the school. This would stop the teachings and everything that they're doing there. Because she says it's strict there. It's strict there.
Okay. Overly strict? Or
She says yes.
okay. All
She
right.
says yes.
Okay. Was it contracted for all immediate victims prior to this recent incarnation, or was it free will?
Well, Eric says, it's both free will and contracted. He says all of them were willing.
What that means is, for people who are not schooled in the art of woo, when they're asking if it was contracted, they're talking about a soul contract that was made prior to incarnation. So essentially the premise goes like this: before we make the decision to be born into this human experience on earth. We can be born in other places, we can be born in other things. We make the conscious decision when we are in the spirit realm, heaven, whatever you want to call it, to be born as a human into this experience. And the purpose is to experience different aspects of what it means to be a human being. Sometimes you might experience good aspects, and sometimes you might experience negative aspects, and sometimes you might experience anywhere on the spectrum in between. Because there is no one human life that is all rainbows and unicorns. There is no one human life that is all doom and gloom and, reckless abandon and violence. We are all a mix of both, okay? We make decisions to come into this lifetime to experience certain things. Sometimes we might need to be balancing karma for things that we did in our past incarnations. Like if we were a bastard to someone in our last incarnation, we might have to have another life to balance that energy in which someone does those things to us. And so we have the experience not only of inflicting those things, but that someone also does those things to us in our next incarnation. That's how you balance the energy. That's what karma is. So what a soul contract is basically a group of people get together when they're in spirit form and they all agree. And so it is entered into voluntarily. It is free will. You agree to do this. You're like, I'm going to have this experience with these people in this lifetime. And you might make a contract with some people where they're inflicting pain on you. You might make a contract where you're inflicting pain on them. There could be good contracts too. That's what soulmates are. So it cuts both ways. But the point is, there are decisions made before we're born that we all enter into on a voluntary basis that has to do with the development of our soul. Do not stop. I'm getting really sick of this. Time out. There are reasons that we enter into these things that have to do with our spiritual development that are beyond our human experience. That's what we're talking about.
Participants to participate in this drama scene.
All right. What was the lesson? What was the lesson to be learned by the collective and even the individual victims and perpetrator?
Well, he said there's
Yes.
many lessons to be to.
Do I believe in this? Yes, I do. Yeah, 100% do. I think I've lived lives before. I think I will live lives again. I think that I have people in my life that I have contracts with. I think that there are people in my life that are here for a reason. I think there are things that I chose to experience that have just been a part of my experience. I think there's probably other things that will come in my life that I've chosen to happen that, it's not that you don't have free will. You always have free will. We can always get off our spiritual track, but then life has a way of booting you back onto it. Anyway, yeah, I do believe everything I say on this. But, to be really clear, I'm not trying to evangelize or proselytize or anything like that. I don't care if people agree with me. I don't care what your spiritual beliefs are. I'm not going to try to convince you of something that isn't, I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. This interview was after Audrey, after this shooting. This is an Afterlife interview, so it was after the shooting.
To be learned from this. Eric says there were warnings or something to the effect that this probably was going to happen. But I feel like somebody was trying to get them to tell them not that something like this could happen, but nobody was paying attention. And I don't know if it's that they reported it to the police or reported it to family or someone, but there was a reporting on this. Eric is showing me.
Oh.
But
The
you know,
the
it's
psychiatrist at the
Eric says one of the
university.
things is, you know, there's so much information on social media that nobody's paying attention to.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like the way he says it, it's like maybe she posted something on social media or something. Also too, I also feel like it was um she also wanted to be noticed,
Yup.
and she got
What did I
noticed.
say? What did
I
I
feel
say?
like at home, not that I'm saying her parents are bad or wrong or indifferent, but I feel like she
I
was
said
in
exactly that same thing earlier. I said that the reason that she did this was because she felt ignored by everyone in her life. She wrote in the manifesto that she felt ignored, she felt overlooked, and so she wanted to go out with a bang in a way that people could not avoid noticing her.
visible.
Invisible. Yeah.
She felt invisible. She also said she got picked on some in school, and you know, and out of school, and so
About what? What
just being
everybody
being
gets picked
different.
on.
Just being
My curly hair was a target for. I was Curly Joe the Eskimo.
Oh my Lord.
It was awful.
She says she says because she was different.
Okay.
You know, she was just different. But you know, the lessons in this, Eric says you can't just say that there's one, but one of the things Eric says is this definitely shows this isn't going away.
No.
And so exactly. And
oh, sorry.
but Eric says, you know, it grabs people's heart.
Yeah.
But then it fades away from the people it didn't affect. And,
You know, it's just so, it seems like America, the US has so much more in the way of school shootings. And I think that we shouldn't have assault weapons and all that stuff. But, you know, I do
Boo.
believe in the Second Amendment right. And of course, it's not the gun that kills, it's the person that kills. And
correct.
there's all sorts of things we should do. But well, we'll get into that whole thing. That's the whole political thing. All right, why, Audrey, this school? In the videos, you look at the different rooms. Then you willingly chose that certain classroom, and they were 9 years old. Why did you pass some and go to the others, and eventually pick the 9-year-old class?
She's telling me because it was easy access.
Okay.
Easy access.
You opened lots of doors, you know, at least one door.
Because she's showing me she had no intentions of dying. She was just going to go in and do it.
No.
And she showed me like she was going to walk away.
Wrong. That's not
true. I don't know how she expected to do that. But she's showing me that room had easy access to exit. But I also feel like the age bracket of the kids had something to do with her. There was something going on with her around in that grade level that
Interesting.
That really bothered her.
And what was that?
She's showing me this is when a lot of her troubles began at that age.
Was there one trigger, one horrible event that happened, like a bully said something awful, or when you were 9 years old, anything that made the 9-year-old age for you horrible and triggered?
Yeah, she was very clear that she knew she was going to die in the manifesto.
Like that is when
100%.
There was depression within her. There's a sense of feeling different, and I also feel that this is when some mental illness started to show some signs. But she says, but we're definitely ignored.
Okay, all right. Was your intention to die via death by cop? And if so, why did you think it was necessary to take innocent children and adults first? But I guess you weren't intending to die by a suicide by cop, right?
She said she didn't think about her own death.
Bullshit. Wrong. See, now I might have a hard time believing anything else, but that's okay.
I don't know what I would do, but she didn't plan the end result for her, is what she said.
Bullshit.
Okay.
She says, but the end result was the best result for everybody.
Yeah. talk to the parents of those kids. Okay, so why? What about killing the children and the adults did you think would make things better for you or the world or whatever?
She says when you're doing something like that, you're not thinking. She's showing me it's like you're in a total blackout rage, anger moment. She says, because she said you can't think clear. She said, but in her thoughts, she's saying she really thought she was helping.
In what way though? I mean, because you could like, punch your fist through a wall or beat your pillow up or take boxing, but why this?
Because she said she knew she would get recognition.
Notice, yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you planning this, Audrey?
Years.
She tells me for over a year she was planning
Yeah.
a big, massive
Okay.
destruction type thing, like what she did. She had been thinking about it, and she said, she got the ideas from other school shootings.
Okay. So that's what it is in part in America.
I don't agree.
Copycat
Listen,
stuff, maybe.
mediums are human beings, and it's like, that's not how it works, fluffy cow respecter. I mean, like, it's just not how it works. It's like mediums are human beings. They're putting a human interpretation on it. Some are better than others, but I still think there's wisdom to be found in these things. And so try to suspend judgment and don't do this. No, inappropriate. I do not want this bullshit in the chat. If you don't like it, you don't have to be here. No one's requiring you to be here. You can go somewhere else.
How were you able to buy all those guns legally? And did you intentionally buy them to kill people at the school?
She said, yes, she intentionally bought them to kill people. She said, yes.
Okay.
And she said how she got away with buying the guns is nobody pays attention. If you go in there real calm and acting like, this is your first time buying a gun and, you have all, she says, nobody questions you.
Yeah.
Nobody, she said, there should be a database that says when a last gun was bought.
Yeah. So, well, we have people who are selling guns that want to make money, unfortunately. So they don't care. Until something like this happens. So did you buy them with the thought of these are going to kill people?
Yes.
Okay.
She said, yes.
So I always think that that there should be psychological testing for anybody who wants to carry any kind of deadly weapon. And I think there also should be cognitive testing and psychological testing for police who also carry guns and you can use deadly force. Anybody who does that, and also for politicians. They rule the world, so I think they should be filtered, screened, and that's a really good way to bring people like you, Audrey, to treatment, so that you don't have to be so horribly alone and tortured by your anger. So what do you think about that, you and Eric, about some sort of screening? Of course, it's difficult because whoever screens you, I mean, there has to be a standardized test with but then the psychologist, their reputation and whatever is on the line. So it would have to be like, okay, if you make above this number, then fine. If you make below, no. What do you do?
Well, Eric says, that works to a degree, but then it doesn't. He said, because there's some people who are very intelligent who have mental illness, so they know how to fake it until they get through a certain part. And he said, so that helps, but it's also too, he says, there's some guns that should never even be sold to the general public.
Yeah.
And that in itself should stop. And Eric says also to get ammunition for these guns.
Yeah.
He says there should be some kind of and he says, and we have the technology, something about when you scan it, it can go into a database of how much ammunition is being bought. And
Yeah.
you're going to know, is it being bought during deer season, turkey season, or whatever season y'all have, for hunting. And it would help with that. He says, of course, there's always going to be people that slip through that.
Yeah.
Because it's like buying alcohol,
Yeah.
even though you're not 21 here in the United States, you can find someone to do it for you. He says, but it would help in that area. It would help cut down, he says.
Yeah. To limit the ammunition.
Yes.
200 rounds of whatever.
Ugh, I know.
All right. Okay. Were you led by anyone to do this? Like, were you mind controlled? In that case, what is their real agenda, if that's true? So, did anybody else mind control you to do it, or did you talk to anybody beforehand even
No,
about your
actually,
plans?
they're not. They're not. They're not. They're not. Listen. Listen. These are not political people. This woman is not political. She actually, when I first started watching her, she veered more conservative. She actually liked Trump. Her audience kind of bullied her into being more liberal, but these are not political discussions, okay? They're just not. This is think of this like your mother or your grandmother. I don't want to be attacking these women because like they don't exist in the realm that we're in. Why we're listening to them is just to get a different perspective on things and to maybe get like some insight into and to see what they say. And again, no one has to believe this. If you guys don't want to believe, that's fine. But like, it just feels like, and I'm not blaming you, Brucey. I'm not trying to like single you out or anything, because I see other people in the chat doing this. It just kind of feels to me like these are not our adversaries. They're just doing their own thing. This woman's been doing her thing for years. Let's just cut her some slack. That's all I'm saying.
No, not really saying it out loud. This is what I'm going to do, because then attention would have been brought to it.
Yeah.
But she does tell me, though, that there were subtle hints dropped.
Okay.
There were subtle hints. And I asked her, is it because you were crying out for help?
Oh yeah.
And, she says, and on some level, yes. On some level, yes.
Yeah.
But I also feel like she was invisible, to a lot of people.
Yeah. Wow.
And this, but Eric says, remember though, that there was mental illness involved in this. And I find it odd that she doesn't identify herself as he or they. And I was wondering, is it
Because
because
she
you're on the
wasn't
other
really
side and you're both,
trans.
Yeah.
it doesn't really
She
matter.
wasn't really
And
trans.
I just feel like that part of her that did the unthinkable, she's trying to reconcile with that. Like she still hasn't. Eric says she's not over here living the good life right now.
A lot of healing needs to be done.
A lot of healing. So it's like she's separating herself from that part, because that was the part that she has a lot of grief over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are mental illnesses and the DSM whatever membership now that portray a lot of anger, like explosive personality disorder and oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorders, all sorts. So I'm sure you probably had one of those. Were there any karmic bonds connecting you to your victim?
It's probably not very hot where she is because hell doesn't exist. Hell does not exist in this construct. That's not how people are punished. You're punished by karma. And by the way, it's not even necessarily a punishment, because remember, this is all part of a soul contract. So people go into this agreeing to take part of this experience. You are playing the role that you've been given to play. You're doing the things that the people that she shot agreed to take part in this in spirit. It was a free will voluntary decision, maybe because they had to balance energy or karma from a different lifetime, maybe because that was an experience they needed to have for whatever reason. So everyone agreed. That's part of the premise here. And it's not trying to excuse people, because again, you guys just heard her say that, this is not a happy, jolly time for her. She's just transitioned. She's she's reviewing and coming to grips with what she did in her life, and that is a hard and difficult process. And she's going to probably have to live out future experiences where she has shitty things done to her, to give her the experience that she inflicted on other people, or she's previously had those things done and this was the balance of that. So that's what the punishment is. The punishment is, no matter what we say, no matter what we do, the energy is always going to get balanced. It's either going to get balanced in this lifetime, or it's going to get balanced in the next lifetime. Always. Universally. Karma is the punishment. You will receive what you inflict on other people. That's it.
Victims.
Guys, I'm going to run downstairs and get a cup of tea. I will be right back. Let me know if anything good happens. Let me know if you have any questions.
She laughs kind of, and she goes, there is now, because there is now for her.
Have you met them on the other side? And how did that go? Or are you like going like, nothing is here?
Eric says it is something like that, because it's not the kind of shame that we have here, but there is that feeling, that sense, because you can feel that. And it's not like they keep them separated because there'll be a fight or anything, but it's just best for everyone's healing, I guess would be a better way, is to not be there. Because Eric says, Audrey's going to have to address each person that she took their life from and have to work through that. And it doesn't happen in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. There's a time frame. Well, not a time frame, but there's a process that takes place on doing that. And then she also has to somehow, Eric is telling me, reach the people, the victims' family and stuff. Somehow she has to work out that karmic debt too with them on another level.
Wow. So there has to be healing on both sides, perpetrator and victim. All right, what was the exchange between you and Headmaster Dr. Catherine Kuntz when you encountered one another? I don't know, one of the ones that died, or and then it's repeated. What was the exchange between you and Headmaster? Okay, same question. So, wow, done 3 times. Oh no, 2 times. So,
what was the exchange between them?
Yeah, well, hang on. Let me look at one thing first. And while I'm looking it up, Audrey, were you on medications like antidepressants? It seems to be a common denominator in mass shooters. I didn't know that, actually.
She shows me she was on a lot of medication, and when she says that, I feel like she took more than the correct dose that day.
Oh gosh. Did you take antidepressants, antipsychotics, all of the above?
She's showing me, when you said psychotic drugs, I feel like that it's that. It wasn't just, I don't really get antidepressants from her.
Oh, okay.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure that was in that medicine, but the way she shows me, it wasn't labeled. And she was also on. It's like, I don't know if she started her transition through, taking testosterone or that. I want to say she was, just the feeling she gives me.
Because that can create some anger, rage, etc.
Well, that
Roid
isn't-
rage, basically.
Well, Eric
I mean,
says
that wasn't backed up by the autopsy. The autopsy did not have her as being on drugs.
yes, it can, but he says,
In some, yeah.
but there's was already an imbalance with the chemicals within her that caused that.
Oh.
So it doesn't mean people who are, you know, in the process of transitioning, that they're going to end up having that happen
Oh,
to them
of
as
course
well.
not.
Because usually people who are in the process of transitioning, a good portion of them, he says, are usually in some form of therapy or coaching or something like that. They're not
Yeah.
just
Yeah, that
doing the
wasn't
pills
right.
and sitting at home. There's
Right.
some communication going on with somebody to
Well,
help them.
were you under medical supervision with your, at least your desire? You're talking about transitioning, even if maybe you started the process, maybe not.
He said no.
Yep. No.
Okay.
Exactly.
And he
No.
said, now he goes to he.
Correct.
Okay.
No.
All right. So
She was
Catherine
not
Kuntz,
transitioning, like I said.
headmaster. What
Like
was the
I
exchange
said.
when you encountered her? Now I don't know if it's when they met in heaven or in the school. So let's start out in this school. Catherine, the headmaster was there. You were looking at each other in the eyes. What happened? What was the exchange?
She tells me that it really, there wasn't, you know, there was a lot of hysteria going on. She says that the other person, I don't think
Kuntz?
Kuntz really is like in a state of shock and thought, you know, I get like, thought maybe it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Kuntz was trying to talk her out of it to some degree, you know. But Eric says when you're in that moment, hysteria is going up. But I also feel like Kuntz was trying to talk her
Out of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Kuntz hysterical or was he trying to be calm?
Eric says she is trying to be calm.
What about you, Audrey? What did you say to her when she was trying to?
Just shut up. Just shut up.
All right. Now, have you met her in heaven? Or is that the same thing? We got to wait till everybody here.
Eric says it's kind of the same thing, but he says, but you know, everyone's coming over. You know that, you know, all the people are coming over, because he says it's like it's you just know when people are coming over. And he goes, in something like this, it's like a feeling. You just know everybody is coming over. Yeah.
Okay. Did you think by doing this horrific act, it had to be done to bring more attention to young boys and girls in the transgender community that are bullied and or murdered? Why do people have to be haters? Ugh. Human experience, contrast, sorry. But yeah, what do you think?
She said no. She said no.
Because
She
that had
said
nothing to
no.
do
It
with
felt like
it.
a personal, self-absorbed.
Had
I'm
nothing to
pissed
do with
and I
it.
want people to notice me. It was more like that, right?
She says yes. Yes.
Okay. Maybe on a larger spiritual note. Still no?
No.
Eric says he really doesn't want to put that out there because he doesn't want
Oh, okay. That's
someone to say this is a result of somebody not being accepted for being trans, so
Even
they went
in
on a
spirit,
rampage.
I fucking
Eric
love this.
says, this is
even in spirit, they're like, don't fucking politicize this. That's glorious.
it really
so
it's
good.
two different things. Yeah.
All right, good. What triggered mind / brain to do such a horrible trick? Were there? Well, we already kind of answered that, but were there negative entities attached and affecting you at all? Attached to people, they feed off of those with mental illness, of course.
Yes. Eric says, you know, when you're down
You attract
in the ditch,
you attract it.
you can't see anything up above you, so then you just start focusing on what's in front of you instead of looking up and seeing light, is the analogy Eric has given me. So you don't reach out for anything, for anybody help. So you do start,
True.
it starts festering, Eric says, your thoughts and stuff. And then with his thoughts, they just start expanding in a negative process. And then he,
Yeah, but
you
the
know,
negative entities from other dimensions, you know how they attack
yeah,
alcoholics and all that we get rid of with Atlanta scalar work? Was there
Hello,
any
Kev.
of that?
Welcome.
Like shadow people, etc.?
Eric says, well, he says, I don't feel like she had something attached to her, but she definitely had some heavy influences around her to keep her from looking up and
So their
seeing.
negative entities can be in your energy that
Yeah,
can also be attached. So she had maybe some in her.
around.
Okay.
Yeah, around, I would say, because Eric doesn't show me they're attached to her.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, let's do a couple more and then we'll stop the video and we'll restart it for number 2.
Okay.
And I hope, Audrey, that you agree to stay on, but it will be up to you. Could any sort of intervention have put you on another life path, Audrey, where you didn't kill anyone? Could anything have been done?
Question.
She said, of course, there could have been other
Yeah.
options, and when she's talking, she's like, this real monotone sound
Yeah.
feeling, and just, it's not like she's, oh, this is what I did. She said, yes, she said, just to be heard, just to be, to talk to. And I just don't feel like she was given enough attention. And not that her parents weren't, her parents did the best they could, but I just feel like she was left on her own devices.
To be raised by wolves. Well, I mean, there are people who feel like they're invisible, but people are paying attention. And there are people who are truly invisible because nobody's paying attention to them. Which category do you fit in?
Well, she says both, but she could do a lot of things at home that her parents didn't know about that she was doing.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like
pay
her
attention
mother,
to each other. God.
I know, and I feel like her mother was, very concerned.
Yeah.
But didn't know what to do, so didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to reach out.
Maybe.
Yeah, didn't know how to reach out.
Yeah.
And she said she had a very bad temper at home, so they could have been scared of her temper.
Oh, wow. Was your mom or your dad afraid of you sometimes?
I get from her mom that her mom was a little.
Okay, last one for this part. What was your brain saying to you as you gunned down 3 beautiful angels? And like, how are you unpacking that wherever you are? What do you think as you were actually shooting these little kids? Nothing, maybe? None?
That's what she says, you're just, it's like you're in a video game, you just do it until the end. You don't feel nothing. She said, because if you felt something like, oh, that's horrible, you wouldn't be doing it. But she said, once you get to that point, it's like you're in a blackout of rage.
Well, how do the little kids who were killed, how do they react at first before they died? I mean, anything notable at all?
She's telling me that she didn't really pay attention to their thoughts or anything. Yeah.
All right. Well, this actually seems to go with that line of questioning before we pause. Did you play video games, and did that have an effect on your confidence and your decision to do this destruction?
Come on.
For accuracy, she said, for shooting accuracy. Yeah.
Okay. And that's it? It didn't embolden you to carry this out on living creatures?
She said, of course it gives you confidence, and it helps to, because when you're playing video games, and Eric goes again, this isn't for everybody though, but when she's saying when you're playing those video games, you do feel like you're the hero or whatever, because you get so many points and you get to do so many things.
I don't think you got very many points, Audrey, on this one.
Yeah. Well, she's talking in the video games, and so
I
you
know.
know, yeah, and so she's, you know, she says
Lisa is not being nice
on
to her
some level though
at
she
all.
feels like it
Lisa
helped
does
to
not like her.
Mm.
humanize her, is what she
Yeah,
says.
dehumanize life, really.
Yeah,
In a way.
yeah.
All right. Eric, do you agree with that about video games like Fortnite that you're
Eric says yes.
just play
He
all
said,
the time?
he said yes. He said, you know, people are getting a thrill out of killing.
I would
And
not let my kids play
and
that.
and and
Although I
that
did, but I wouldn't if I had to do it all over again.
and it kind of desensitizes you.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Denise, Eric, and
All
Audrey.
right.
Stay tuned. I will
We're going to be
push record.
doing the second part. We're going to go right into it. That was part 1. Let's dig into part 2. So my overall thoughts on part 1 is I feel like it absolutely vindicated me on a couple of things. When I said that she wasn't trans, it turns out she wasn't actually trans. When I said she wasn't on hormones, oh wow, it turns out she wasn't actually on hormones. When I said that the shooting had nothing to do with her being trans, I was right about that. When I said that I thought that she did this because she was invisible in her life and this gave her a way to go out with it, with, like, you know, making sure people noticed her, I was right about that. There were, of course, a couple things that were wrong in that she absolutely knew she was going to die. We know that from the manifesto. It was all over it. Also, there did seem to, like, the medium did seem to, like, start to say that she thought she was transitioning, but then that was corrected. And so, you know, mediums aren't perfect. It is an art, it is not a science, so you have to forgive sometimes. But I feel like the bulk of that was pretty dead on. Part 2.
Well, long time no see.
I know.
Yvonne, Audrey, Hale, and Eric. We are in part 2 of the interview. And I think there might be more than 2 parts of the shooter, Audrey, Hale, and I will read the intro again in case you guys didn't watch part 1, which you should. Audrey Hale, a 28-year-old who went by the name
Well,
Aiden
listen.
and identified as
Listen. The Afterlife interview with Hitler was very accurate. It was accurate based on things that the people doing this probably wouldn't know. And so they get much more right, significantly more right than they get wrong. They're not going and doing deep research on this. So I guess take it for what it's worth, but the accuracy of that Hitler interview was pretty on point, honestly.
as male shot and killed 3 9-year-old students and 3 staff members at the Covenant School, a private Christian academy in Tennessee this year, 2023, March 27th. All right, we'll go on with our questioning. Next. And thank you for staying, Audrey. Why were you either unwilling and or unable to separate your own suffering you'd experienced in life aside and not make the decision to harm innocent people / children who had presumably done absolutely nothing to you, against you?
Well, Eric says you are correct. They did absolutely nothing to her. And all the people that she shot at did absolutely nothing to her.
Yeah, of course not.
You know, Eric says this is the what happens when mental illness goes unidentified.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like all of a sudden she just went crazy and started this shooting thing. He said this was.
Are you an adult? Are you an adult? Are you over 18? Are you capable? And by the way, I've never seen you in my chat before. Literally have never seen you in my chat before. Are you capable of clicking on content that you want to watch versus and you know, making the adult decision where if someone is doing a piece of content that you don't want to watch, maybe instead of clicking onto it and then whining and complaining about the fact that it's not what you want, you can just not click on it and go somewhere else. If you know anything about my content at all, it's that you know that I demand that people on my channel exercise personal fucking responsibility. No one forced you to click on this content. I will bet all the money in my bank account that I have created dozens of hours of content already this week that you haven't watched. Did you watch the entire socialism conference with us? Did you sit through 22 hours of socialism over the course of 48 hours the other day? If you didn't, shut the fuck up, go back and watch the socialism conference. You're correct. You're correct. I don't want feedback from you when I know that you're just here to cause problems. You are 100% correct. You are not going to change the content that I do on this channel. You are permitted to act like an adult and not click on something you don't want to watch, and instead go back to other content that I promise you haven't watched yet, because I don't recognize your name, which means you don't come into my chat. And even if you are telling the truth, which I rarely speak, then why did you choose tonight to start speaking? Why did you choose a complaint to be the first thing that you decided to chat in? I don't believe you. I think you're just here to cause problems. So be a fucking adult and go watch something else. You absolutely do want to derail, because if you've been watching my content for months, you know exactly what is going to happen when you start chatting in and telling me what types of content I'm allowed to create. Every single person who watches my channel regularly knows exactly what's going to happen anytime someone chats in to try to tell me what content to create. Are we clear? Are you an adult? Go somewhere else. Go watch other content. And if you didn't sit through the 22 hours of socialism that we streamed over the weekend, then not a single one of us who did sit through 22 hours of socialism care what your feelings are. Go back, watch the socialism content, or GTFO. We don't care. Lucy, you've only chatted in on 2 other streams. We can see your chat history.
Was going on, the behaviors were there. Hindsight, parents and friends and other people can see
Every time.
behaviors,
Every time.
and now it's like, oh, I didn't think it would get to that point, you know.
Right.
And
if you ever complain in my chat again, you will be banned, because I'm going to remember you this time. If you ever try to tell me what content I can create again, you'll be permanently banned. And if you don't want to watch this, go somewhere else. But if you continue to complain in my chat, we're just going to remove you, and we're going to remove any option you have to chat it in the future. And that's just going to be the way it goes.
So there were definitely signs that got up to that. But Audrey says there came a point with her, and I feel like maybe the last 6 months, that she started to become real silent in a lot of areas of her life.
Yeah,
And that is right there, and that is really a warning sign right there, when there's silence kicking in.
Well,
Hey,
sometimes
Boom.
parents
Good
could
to see
think, well,
you.
that's a good sign. She's not having temper tantrums, etc.
Right. But that is really that's a sign that something isn't okay, especially if nothing was done to address that. And then all of a sudden there's silence.
Seek treatment for her, psychiatric treatment, or did they, but she refused to do it, or what?
She's telling me that there was some intervention there with parents helping, but I just
Okay.
don't feel like,
Didn't help.
yeah, like there maybe didn't follow through and stuff.
Yeah. Do you feel society, school, etc., pushed or encouraged you into a lifestyle that may have just been a phase that you were going through? And I do have
that's a good question.
some comments on this as a doctor. When kids go through puberty, they're so confused. Breasts started to go, it's like, oh, gross, I don't want to be a girl, and that kind of thing. And
Yeah. Imagine, I mean, seriously imagine, and I'm going to stop complaining about this. I promise I'm going to stop complaining. But seriously imagine, I do 1 stream a week that is about spiritual stuff that I enjoy. There are many people that enjoy that stream as well. It's a break. And on that 1 stream, people inevitably come in and complain about the fact that I'm doing that 1 stream when they could go to any of the other streams and watch the content that they claim to want to watch, which I give for them for a dozen hours, at least a week, for free. Like, imagine the fucking entitlement to come in and complain. about something that I do for me just for fun. And I'll bet you that person has never supported my work either. I bet you I've never had one dime from that person because they value my work oh so much that they're going to complain about it. Anyway,
They get
I promise I'll stop
confused
now.
and gender dysphoric. They don't want to go through puberty. Who does? And so I'm just wondering if what this person is asking is, do you think society is kind of pushed you into a lifestyle when you just may have been going through changes
When you
that you were
just may have been
uncomfortable
a
with, a phase you
lesbian.
were going
She
through?
was a
And
lesbian.
this has happened to people who have had their breasts lopped off, etc. And they said, I shouldn't have done it. I'm a girl. And I'm
See, she knows.
So,
Yeah.
Detransitioners, she knows.
This is what she's telling me. That no society didn't, push her in one direction or another.
okay.
But I get from her, she felt more empowered, or she thought she was more empowered being a male
Oh,
than being a
makes sense.
female.
Yup, to get girls.
And she felt less of a victim being a male
Mhm.
than being a female.
That
And more
lines up.
visible, maybe?
Well, she said definitely people would stare at me, but for all the wrong reasons.
Oh,
Because she looked like she probably was a girl but wanting to be a boy and stuff.
yeah, but do you think that being a male in society, males are kind of more visible in your
She
opinion?
said yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Eric, this question for you. Given the fact that all these kids going through puberty, what percentage are truly transgender? Because they exist, of course.
Yes.
And what percentage are just gender
That's a
dysphoric
good,
and very
question.
confused about their sexual identity, their gender identity as well?
Eric is going to say, he says, and I feel like he's, I don't want to say conservative, but he's just going to, he says 5% is what he says.
5%?
What percent are just gender? I mean,
Bullshit.
some are not dysphoric at all.
I don't believe that.
But
I don't
what
think
percent
that's
of
right.
children going through puberty are just going through confusion at that stage?
So the 5% were for the ones who weren't really trans, correct?
Oh no, I don't know.
That because Eric says the 5%
Oh.
were the ones who
Are just confused.
and going
Oh.
that direction. That's the 5% for that.
Shit.
He says. Now the ones with the kids who are confused and everything, he falls that
No,
into
I
the
don't
5% because
Okay.
because it's so widely spoke about transgenders and stuff like that. I mean, of course, that's a thought. I know someone who questioned their own sexuality because they thought their best friend was.
Gordy, why is it that you insist on taking this line? Because I'm going to tell you what, Gordy got a dressing down earlier on the stream because Gordy insists on saying that being trans is a symptom of being queer, which of course anyone who has watched my content about queer knows that that's absolutely not true. And we very calmly and rationally explained to Gordy that trans is not a symptom of being queer because you do not have to be trans in order to be queer in any way, shape, or form. So therefore, being trans is not a symptom of it because you literally do not have to be trans to be queer. So after the stream, Gordy leaves another comment on my channel, trans is absolutely a symptom of being queer. And now Gordy's back pushing this line. So Gordy, what the fuck is the malfunction? What is the malfunction? What are you not understanding? Let's sort this out because I don't want to see any more of this bullshit. I do not want people to be confused about this. And you still seem to be very confused. You do not have to be trans in order to be queer. What is unclear about that? We're going to wait for your answer. What is unclear about the idea that you do not have to be trans in order to be queer? What is unclear? You literally did, bro. You literally did. You want to know why? I can look in the comments on the YouTube channel right now. 8 minutes ago, Gordy. 8 minutes ago, you said transgenderism is a symptom of queer ideology. That is just not correct. So don't fucking lie and tell me you never made that claim, because you did 8 minutes ago, and I have it right here. So what is the malfunction? What don't you understand? I did. I literally did. And we're not going to get into a debate about this. You are very clear in your fucking wrongness. So what is the fucking problem? Do you understand that you do not have to be trans in order to be queer? This is a yes or no question. Do you understand that you do not have to be trans in order to be queer? Because I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have a fucking ongoing argument in my comments or in my chat. Do you understand that you do not have to be trans in order to be queer? Yes. So then it is impossible for trans to be a symptom of queer, because a symptom means that everyone has it. Do you understand that? So then we are in agreement that comment that you posted 8 minutes ago on my channel, after arguing about it with me earlier, and then come into my chat and say the same thing, we're all in agreement that you're incorrect. No. No. Everyone who gets the flu is probably going to have a fever. Your analogy is completely fucking incorrect. Your analogy would only be correct if being trans was required in order to be queer. The vast majority of people who are queer are not trans. It is not a symptom. It is incorrect. Do you understand? What is confusing about this? The vast majority of people who say they are queer are not trans. Why is this confusing to you? Cool. So then you're going to retract your comment. You're going to retract this statement. You're going to stop pushing this line of thinking. Are we on the same page? If the vast majority of people who are queer are not trans, then trans is not a symptom of queer. You still are. Do you retract your comment or don't you? I am not going to have this ongoing argument. I'm not going to do it. Do you retract your comment or don't you? We'll wait. Yes or no? We're waiting on you. Yes or no? The vast majority of people who are queer are not trans. Therefore, saying that trans is a symptom of queer is completely inaccurate. This should not be hard for anyone. The vast majority of people who are queer are not trans. Is that confusing to anyone? Just because someone is queer does not mean that they are trans. The vast majority of people who are queer are not trans. Is this confusing to anyone? Yes or no? I'll sit here all night. Jennifer's not here right now. Jennifer is not going to save you. I will sit here all night. Correct, green-eyed lady. It is not confusing at all. So therefore, I'm not going to have anyone that I see here tonight continue to push this idea that that trans is a symptom of queer. Yes. The vast majority of trans people are not queer. Yes. The vast majority of queer people are not trans. The vast majority of trans people are not queer. Trans and queer are not the same thing. Queer people have a completely different definition of trans that does not have to do with transitioning gender. Queer people say that trans means transform or transcend. People who are trans, that they are transitioning from a man to woman or woman to man, they are transitioning. Queer people do not consider the definition of trans to be transition. Queer people don't want trans people to transition from one gender to the other. That upholds the gender binary. The entire goal of queer is to abolish the gender binary. So they do not want people transitioning from man to woman or woman to man. Well, no, if you're non-binary, that is queer. If you're non-binary, that is queer, actually. That is the whole point of what queer is. Queer is about abolishing the gender binary. And you're still not getting it. You are still not getting it. All right, well, you're allowed to be no. Non-binary is not trans. You are not transitioning when you're non-binary. You are literally not transitioning. I can declare right now I'm non-binary. I can say, I'm non-binary. Call me they, them pronouns. And then you would have to do it. I can pull my hair. I can shave my head again. I wear basically t-shirts all day anyway. I can dress like a boy. I don't even wear a bra most days, so I'm not conforming on that gender stereotype. I could literally declare right now that I am non-binary. And I would be non-binary. That doesn't mean I'm trans. Doesn't mean I'm transitioning. Doesn't mean I'm doing anything. You do want to abolish the gender binary if you're non-binary, though. You understand that. You have to understand this. You are buying in to queer ideology. You were either born a man or you were born a woman. I'm sorry to be very brass tacks about this. You were either born a man or born a woman. And you might not fit into gender stereotypes, and it's fine not to fit into gender stereotypes. I don't fit into gender stereotypes either. But to say that you are not a man or a woman is mental illness. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I will not buy into the idea that any person is non-binary. Non-binary is made up. It is not real. Yo. So then you're a boy. Then you're a man. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to fit into a stereotypical male stereotype. But my point is this. Like, listen, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. If you want to identify as non-binary, then go to town. I'm seriously not going to tell anyone how to live their life. But what I will say is that if you are identifying as non-binary, then you are, like, by definition, queer. Because that queer is all about abolishing the gender binary. That is the point of non-binary in the first place. Anyway. I saw a guy saying he became non-binary because he doesn't like male fashion. Guess what? I don't like female fashion. Who the fuck cares? Like, this idea that we have to identify as a third thing if we don't like the gender that we were born in. Like, I'm sorry, I was a tomboy growing up. I don't even like girls. I don't like women. I have very few women friends. I've always hung out with boys. I always wanted to play boys' sports. I always wanted to do boys' things. I wore boys' fucking clothes growing up. It didn't mean I was actually a boy. It didn't mean I was non-binary. I always had short fucking hair. My hair right now is as long as it's been in 20 years. I had a shaved head for fucking years. That didn't make me a boy. That didn't make me non-fucking binary. I have more masculine energy than most of the red pill men on the internet. Most of the red pill men on the internet are fucking women compared to me. I can overpower any of them. Myron Gaines basically like fell over into a puddle at my feet when I decided to put him in place on his place on a Twitter space. Like, It's so retarded. None of that means I'm not a woman. Anyway, the penguin video from earlier freaked me out, especially with the yeah, the penguin video is something else. Yeah. 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 In the dick measuring contest between me and Myron Gaines lost by a resounding degree, and it wasn't even fucking close. This is my point. That doesn't make me a man. That doesn't make me non-binary. That makes me one motherfucking powerful woman. Anyway, let's keep. I'm sorry to derail the entire stream with an argument, but Jesus Christ, I just get so sick of this shit.
Pretty,
Yeah.
and so and that does not constitute you being gay or trans or anything. But Eric says it's like 5%, and Eric says this is where families need to talk.
Yeah.
There needs to be more education about. You're going to feel confused about this, but Eric says a good portion of the people who are trans, they feel something at a very young age.
Or would that be like 1% of kids? Maybe, or 2
that feel
that are truly trans.
Eric says a large portion of them.
Oh,
a large
come
portion
on.
of them.
Large portion.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't
Yes.
agree.
Wait, 5% are just confused. What percent are truly transgender? Like a classroom of 30 people, how many would be transgender? Because I've heard that like 1% of the population is truly transgender.
Well, Eric says in a population of 30, there would be one.
Okay. All right.
There would be one. Yeah.
And I think that no matter what, whether it's gender dysphoria, sexual identity crisis, trans, it's parents and siblings, that they need to make it clear that they will love them regardless of their ultimate decision.
Absolutely.
So important. They can't help it how they feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Eric says that's the way it is for any sexuality that's not what the norm is, so.
Norm, I don't even like to use that.
I know, but yeah.
To me, Eric has said that bisexuality is actually a more spiritually evolved form of sexual identity, but I don't know. I won't go there. Now, if there's any true justice to be served to someone who hurts the innocent, what form does it take on the other side? And how will there be retribution for that? Well, I know the answer to that. There is no punishment in the afterlife.
There is no punishment in the
Everything's
afterlife.
lessons.
Right. There is no punishment. But then again, Eric is saying it's like
but the energy will
the
balance.
Whole purpose of us is for us to expand our expansion.
Yeah.
Here on this planet and here on the other side. So Audrey, he says, her expansion, she's going to be able to expand in her consciousness, but she's not going to be able to expand at the rate as if someone who didn't do those things, because she has to wait till the parents of those kids are ready to come into a place where they can come in and let go of their hate, their anger, their pain and stuff like that. Because it's like there's a lock and there's a key, and those people here on earth hold the key to her lock in order for her to continue to expand.
That makes sense.
And so it's not like Eric says, it's not like you get away scot-free with that. But he also says those people here that hold the key, there is also something in it for them to unlock within them own selves.
Yeah, I think excuse Patrick.
But he says, but you do have to allow them that time frame to be able to get to that. And he says, and sometimes these people can't get there. And
for people who just joined, we're doing an afterlife interview tonight. This is the woman on the left is a medium. This is the woman that just runs the channel, where she's just like a normal lady. The woman on the left is a medium that is communicating with the Nashville shooter from beyond the grave.
Unlock that Audrey's lock. So she'll have to wait till they come back again in another lifetime to do that, to unlock unlock the lock for her to be able to expand.
All right. What was the best thing about your parents or a guardian or someone you felt close to that made you, if anybody, feel whole and accepted, Audrey? Was there anybody?
Eric is
Friend,
the woman's
grandparent,
son,
aunt,
the woman
uncles.
in purple's son that died.
She,
The channel is called Channeling Eric because this lady on the right had a son that committed suicide and now speaks to her and like teaches like life lessons and stuff like that through mediums.
references her mother.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Why won't the police release your manifesto?
That's a good
and
question.
Would you like to share what's in the manifesto right now? So why won't they release it? Is it the whole woke, let's not make the trans community look bad? There's no
See,
bad.
she knows.
There's no good.
She knows. She knows what the answer is.
Yeah.
Eric says they're still sorting through everything before they release.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything about what's in the manifesto?
Yeah,
Audrey?
what was in the manifesto? We know now.
She says no, because I feel like there's something going on here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. Less than 20 minutes before the shooting, you sent a message to your former classmate
No,
saying,
she won't. Hang
one
on.
day this will make more sense.
Hang on. No, she won't. He's doing it willingly. There will be no judgment for this. Every single person in this is engaging voluntarily. No one has to do anything. So no, there will not be any judgment.
I've left more than enough evidence behind, but something bad is about to happen.
Well, then what's going to happen is you are going to get karma for how you engage with the situation because quite frankly, you're not involved. So, why are you judging anything? No one is pimping anything. No one's taking advantage of anyone. Everyone's engaging in it voluntarily. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it.
Now, what did you mean by that? Why did you send that to your former classmate?
Well, then that makes sense what she said about there were people now can look hindsight and see where there were little
Yeah.
clues, like there was something
That's a big clue.
Yeah, something wasn't going to happen. And yeah, I mean, something was going to happen. So, hindsight, they can look, oh, I didn't think it would go to this extent and that. And, it was, she says, and not proudly, but it was kind of like, look at me, look what I'm going to do.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like showing
That
off
was
your
in the manifesto.
shiny new Mercedes or something.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm looking at something real quick. But all right, did you feel bullets when you were shot? Did you feel the bullets, or does God pull us out of the body before we can experience that pain?
That's a good question.
She says it can be both ways, but for her, she felt the burn.
Okay.
And Eric makes me feel like she was like almost stubborn, like so detached from consciousness in a way that she just like stood
Ignored
in her
bullets? Ignored the pain?
Yeah, just stood there and just took it, and before her soul exited,
Wow. All right. How long have you been identifying as a male, even though you were born female?
She wasn't identifying as a male.
Years, months?
She wasn't
She's telling
identifying
me
as a male.
since she was identifying as a male since she was 18.
Okay. Right.
I don't know if she went through that process, but she says at 18,
Yeah, well, yeah.
that's when she felt like she could start saying something.
Were you on any hormones to help with that transition?
Both are there. No, she was not on
She
hormones.
shows me yes, she was.
No, you said no
Did
earlier.
You get it on the sly,
No.
or did a doctor prescribe that to you? Those to you?
That's wrong.
She's showing me that she did get them from a doctor, but I don't feel like it was a continuous prescription.
Okay,
because,
on.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it was a continuous prescription, and I feel like some of that is to do with finances.
Yeah,
it's a
did
bummer
your
when
parents
they're
know
just
that
wrong.
You were on these hormones, Audrey? Either of them?
She said.
All right, stop.
She said yes, they knew because she
No
she
more.
told them, you know, like this is what she was doing.
No,
Yeah.
wrong.
How do they feel about you identifying as a male?
Well, they didn't acknowledge me as a male, but she didn't tell them right away what she was doing. And, you know, it's just, but what she is showing me, it's like her parents thought it was a phase and would grow out of it.
Yeah. Okay. But were they at least in some way accepting? Like you do you and own it?
No, not like that. No. It was kind of like, let's just ignore it.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah.
Why do I feel like all of the troll accounts that have been coming back are literally Poetry Painter? Like all of them? Because Poetry Painter obsesses over every single thing I do. So she obviously knows that I've unbanned everyone on the channel. So now she's going and getting out all her old accounts and coming in and being a nuisance because she's that much of a psycho.
I think we already answered this one. Did the hormones play a part in the shooting? And I guess that's
No.
yeah. Oh, did it? It didn't make you more aggressive, the testosterone, the androgens? Or
She said,
hormones?
she said that was already there, you know. She's not saying, it's not like that isn't what caused her to get angry.
Oh, okay.
Eric says, you know, that could have helped it, but that's not what caused her anger.
Okay, that makes sense. Why were you unable to accept the body God gifted you? Well, I mean, we kind of answered that. You were
Yeah.
male. You didn't want to be invisible. You felt more empowered as a male to identify as a male, right? Anything else you want to add to that?
She says, because when you're a male, you're not a victim anymore. You know, you're not a prey for people.
Oh God, she's
yeah.
never met red pill men.
She's just shown me she just
Red pill
hated
men
everything
are the
about
most
female
victim.
body. So I'm asking her, well, if you've been here long enough, would you have wanted to go and date a woman or something, and
Yes.
you know, a female? And she just says she says you can't go there with that because I'm not here.
Oh, okay.
She's not here to discuss that. Really.
She absolutely
so
would
I
have
guess she
dated
wouldn't
a
know.
female.
Okay.
I don't feel like she was attracted to the
female.
Yeah, I just don't feel like she was.
All right. So
wait,
did she say? Did
she say she wasn't attracted to men or to women?
Not here to discuss that, really. So I guess she wouldn't know.
Okay.
I don't feel like she was attracted to the.
No, wrong. That's wrong too. See, like this is really depressing to me. She's a bad medium. She's getting a lot of stuff wrong, and that makes me believe that most of this is bullshit. See, here's the thing. Like, and again, not all mediums are fake, but the fake ones, when you can suss them out, they give the real ones a bad name. And so you can't judge. It's like any profession, right? It's like anything. There are going to be people who are competent and there are going to be people who are incompetent. And this woman is not competent. She is not a good medium. She's getting too much stuff wrong. Like, the manifesto was very clear. Audrey was very into women. Wanted to fuck black women in the ass. Had whole sexual fantasies about fucking black women in the ass. Like, had dolls that she used to act out these fantasies. She had hearts and flowers and all this stuff over all the girls she had a crush on. You know? So I still want to listen to it, but like, she's just getting a lot wrong, and that makes me sad.
The female?
Yeah, I just don't feel like she was.
All right. So what do you think, Audrey, and Eric, you could chime in too, about the ban on transgender men competing in women's sports? I mean, to me, I will give my opinion. Don't shoot me. Don't shoot the messenger. But when I saw that woman volleyball player being smacked in the face by a spike from a transgender male, so that she had a concussion, I think broken jaw or something. To me, I think, why can't the transgenders just have their own league? They can play, but to have a man with increased lung capacity and increased muscle mass, I don't care what their testosterone level is, play against women, it can really do some damage. People can be injured. So on at the standpoint of injuries, etc., what do you think about banning transgender men from competing with biological women?
Well, Eric says it's not fair game, you know.
Exactly.
It's just not
True.
fair
Not a level
game.
playing field. Yeah.
No,
Not a
it's
level
like
playing
having
field.
a 20-year-old playing against a 70-year-old, you
Yeah.
know. There are some 70-year-olds that can keep up with the 20-year-old, but not many. And he
Yeah.
says it's not he's showing me it's the scales aren't even in that. That's what he's showing me. So
Yeah.
it's not, and he said, you know, um, we're wanting to make everything politically correct and everything, but he says there has to be a point where you say, I'm sorry, this is what you want to do, but it
Common
just didn't.
sense. Common
Well,
sense.
he says, even though you've changed yourself on the outside
Yeah.
from one to the other, your body is still built on the inside for if you're a male or if you're a female.
Of
And
course.
yes, the hormones help with that, but there, he says, you're right, Mom, there is a difference.
Lung capacity, all that stuff. Well, it's kind of like a 28-year-old female identifying as a male killing 9-year-olds. That's not fair. That is not a level playing field.
No, it isn't. And Eric says, and you notice how a lot of these are not going to the level, they're not going to a place where they're 28-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. They go to
Oh yeah.
one that are of that can't fight back, that, you know.
Yeah, why
So
is
they
that?
well, Eric says they're cowards, you know, why they're here. He says they're cowards because they know that they're not going to have the capacity to hold the door shut, do whatever, you know. He says, and Eric says it's cowardness is what it is.
Oh my God, it seemed like it would be hard to say you're a coward when you pretty much know you're going to get killed by the popos. Seriously.
Well, he says, but that's why they go in and go to a level where he says it's like men beating up on women, you know, they beat on women because they know they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Said with Audrey, she knew that she had a good chance of winning that match.
Did you feel like you were in the wrong body from a very early age? I think you said that it was 18, but was there any feeling earlier than that or not?
She says no, it wasn't.
Okay. Did your gender identity issues come from another life?
She says yes, but because she's had a few lifetimes where she was
Hang on. No, I don't mind questions. I don't mind questions like this. Don't worry. Where the idea of not being of a norm mean you aren't your gender originate? Forgive me if you've talked about this. So that's a good question. Where did it originate? I don't know where it originated. What I can tell you is that I mean, this whole idea of non-binary really, so non-binary existed. I think the whole idea of being non-binary has existed at least since the 80s. But it really started getting pushed after gay marriage was legalized. So essentially what happened is that there have always been queer Marxists within the LGBT rights movement. Back like we can go back to like the 60s and the 70s, and there were queer Marxists within the LGBT rights movement, right? But there were also just like normie gay people that literally just wanted to get married and settle down and just wanted to be able to visit their loved one in the hospital and all that. And people can have all the feelings they want about gay marriage, and that's fine. And I'm not going to try to convince you to see one way or the other. I'm just saying there is a difference between queer Marxists who want to abolish the gender binary and just like normie gay people who just want to get married and want to be able to have insurance and want to be able to visit their loved ones in the hospital, because there was a time when you couldn't do that. So the LGBT rights movement used to be kind of like they had a legitimate grievance. There was a legitimate problem that was affecting normal people, and a lot of the people involved in the LGBT rights movement, they literally just wanted a solution to that problem, okay? So you had this mix of like normie gay people and then queer Marxists, because queer Marxists are always involved in these social justice movements, and you had both. 2015, gay marriage gets legalized nationally by the Supreme Court. There wasn't a lot of non-binary stuff going on before 2015. I'm not saying it wasn't there. I think it was always kind of there. But you just didn't hear a lot about like non-binary this, non-binary that. Once gay marriage was legalized, the normie gay people were basically like, okay, let's pack up. Nothing more to see here. We don't have anything more to do, because their problem was solved. They had a problem. They got the solution. They were happy. They went home. They weren't activists anymore. At that point, that left a massive void, because you had all these organizations that were entirely built up just around the LGBT rights movement. Well, guess what? Nonprofits don't go out of business because a problem gets solved. They just change the focus. And so because all of a sudden this void was left, there was no more activism to do for normie gay people, the queer Marxists came in, hijacked all of the institutions. So now they controlled them. And what they did was, because they still needed to raise money, they shifted the focus from being on like gay rights to trans and gender identity. And this is when we saw the names of GSAs in schools change. GSA used to mean the Gay Straight Alliance. GSAs were around when I was in high school, towards the end of it, I think. But the whole idea of a Gay Straight Alliance back in the 90s was, you know, to basically like, let's have straight kids talk to gay kids and they can realize they're all kids and they're all humans and they all have things in common and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. After gay marriage was legalized, gay straight alliances became gender sexuality alliances. That's when they started pushing queer Marxism, and this is when we start seeing the rise in non-binary. So I don't know if that answers your questions, because I don't know I don't know exactly when it originated, but I can say it started to take off massively after gay marriage was legalized, because it left a void in the activist space, that all of a sudden all of these organizations were completely hijacked by the far left queer Marxists. And that's when it started escalating. Hope that helps.
Sold property, I guess, for prostitution and stuff like that. And I do feel like there was some sexual abuse in her life this time too.
Yeah.
And just nobody's talking about it.
Beyond the guy at the school?
Just she's saying that there was stuff that went on there, but I just feel like there was boys in the neighborhood or something, you know, and just things and that. But I feel like this also is a carryover from a previous lifetime when she was.
Hang on, Fluffy Cow Respector has a good question. How does the concept of God fit into the soul contract theory? We're all part of God. We all come from God. Every single one of us is a different aspect of God. God is called Source. God is called the one true energy, all that is. There are lots of different names for it. But, you know, essentially the whole idea is that every single person in the world, every single person that is incarnated, we come from the same place. We come from the same, that's what the collective consciousness is. And the reason that God kind of, you know, pieces itself off into these spirits that go and have human experiences is that you cannot, if you are a singular entity, if God is a singular entity, then there's nothing to experience, because you're everything all at once. But if you make yourself into different entities, then you're setting up opportunities for contrast. The reason that God created us is essentially to allow God to come to a greater understanding of different aspects of itself. So we are all part of God. We will all go home when this is all over. That's what they mean when they say, I'm you, you're me. We're all from the same place. We're all part of the same collective. So part of the idea of a soul contract is, you know, there might need to be energy that needs to be balanced on a collective level. There might just need to be different experiences that you know, souls want to have. Like, I want to experience being a king. I want to experience being a pauper. I want to experience being in a war. I want to experience living in perfect peace. Like, there are all sorts of there's a range of experiences that we can experience as human beings. And the only way for God to understand that is by becoming all of us and having us interact with each other. Hope that makes sense. Individual consciousness is the universe way of getting into, yes, of getting to experience it itself. Exactly.
Was violated, you know, her body was violated. And so, you know, and Eric says, when you have something that happened in a previous life and then it happens here, it's like
It's a
intense.
trigger.
Yeah, and it just intensifies it even more.
Wow. Mm.
And
Do you
by
think
the
that
way,
by doing
Fluffy Cow Respecter, and this will really blow your mind, being Catholic can be part of your experience. Like, you might be here specifically to experience, being a cat. Like, what does it mean to be a Catholic? That might, I don't see, like, you know, the reason I don't try to convince other people to go along with what I believe is because you are on the path that you're supposed to be on. You are accessing God in the way that works for you. God is showing up in your life in the way that you're going to be most receptive. I don't judge it as good or bad or right or wrong or better or worse or any of that. Like, you're on your path, I'm on my path. We have different ways that we see the world, and it's cool, man. It's cool. We're not all supposed to have the same experience. We're supposed to have different experiences. Did God ever have a body? Well, we all have bodies. We're all part of God. So, yeah, of course.
this is a really good question. Your identification as a male would be more cemented since 99% of shooters are male. That would, create the ultimate transition to male.
She says that's even a good question.
Yeah.
I don't think she thought about that. She does say, though, that she wanted to be remembered as a male.
Okay.
But Eric says she's not going to be remembered as a male. She's going to be remembered
as a female,
as a woman who really did this, as a transgender who said she's a transgender.
Yep.
But really was a female.
Correct.
How do you want to be remembered, as a male or female?
When you say that, she kind of puts her head down. She says it doesn't matter to her how she's remembered, male or female, at this point.
Did you have any lives where you were the victim of a mass or otherwise shooting?
She shows me back before electricity days. I feel like an invasion into her tribe or whatever, where there was massive killings within the tribe.
Oh gosh.
And I can't tell if it's like Native American or if it's just some kind of tribe where there was
some indigenous tribe somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Yeah.
So what she's saying is there was a previous life that she lived back when she was part of some sort of Native American tribe, in which she was killed when a different tribe invaded their area and killed everyone. So that's the balance, guys. That's what we talk about. We say, like, balance. Like, she's had this done to her before, and so you balance the energy by being the perpetrator in a different lifetime. Does that make sense to everyone? That's what yin and yang is. Everything is perfectly balanced. We are all a perfect blend of masculine and feminine energies. All of us have both masculine and feminine energies. That doesn't make us trans. Doesn't make us non-binary. All of us have a perfect balance of energies. Men balance women. Men have strengths where women are weak. Women have strengths where men are weak. Men and women are supposed to balance each other. That's what a partnership is. That's what a relationship is. It's not that the man is dominant and rah, 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 and the woman is the little woman and submissive and all that stuff. That's not what it is. It's a perfect balance of energies in which people play the roles that they're supposed to play. And you find a partner that you can balance. That's why relationships work when the partnership is balanced. Relationships do not work when the partnership is not balanced.
Okay. I feel like it was really more over in
well, I mean, isn't pegging a way for men to experience the feminine side of themselves? If we're going to be, I mean, I'm not recommending it or anything. I'm just saying that I once, like, the one time that I've done this particular act, I was with a man who wanted it. He asked me to do it. It wasn't my idea. and he fucking loved it. He loved it. And he's not like a feminine guy. He's not like he wasn't a feminine guy at all. Like, he loved it. And so might there be a reason for that? Maybe he wanted to experience the more feminine, the more vulnerable side of himself and kind of got off on it, if I'm honest about it. Yeah, see, those mystical prayer experiences you get when praying the rosary, I get that when I meditate. So is that really different? Like, some people, like, prayer is a form of meditation. We commune with God in different ways. We can both have those mystical experiences of communing with God in the way that we access it, you know? It's all cool. Yeah, now Fluffy Cow Respecter is traumatized. Yeah. It's all right. It's going to be no one has to engage in pegging when they don't want to. It's okay, Fluffy Cow Respecter. Everything is voluntary. Don't worry about it.
I feel like more in Africa or something where people came in. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to have a part 3, which is great. Audrey, are you okay with that? I mean, we've tried to be super respectful and give you a voice too. You know, we don't want you to be invisible. We're trying to help in that way anyway. So would you be willing for a part 3?
She said, yeah, she'll be willing for a part 3. And Eric says, you know, on a small level, this helps her to heal.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
So with that helping her to heal, that gets, you know, like sent back to us so that we
collective.
can start,
we're all part of the collective.
So that we can start healing.
The more it, you know, affects the entire collective, right?
Mm-hmm. And and Eric says, and then it helps the expansion more on what we can do to stop this, you know, what we can do to minimize this, because as it is right now, Eric says, as people are getting desensitized from video games, people are also getting desensitized from hearing about this stuff.
Yeah, all these mass shootings. All right, well, thank you. And anything else you want to say before we close, Eric or Audrey?
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Bless you.
Eric says no, you know, he says they'll save it for part 3. He does say hold the judgment till all of this is done.
Oh,
you know,
please.
Yeah.
So we're not supposed to judge anybody but ourselves, and even that is questionable.
Well, he says, you know, when it hits home to us, we have to vent somewhere.
I know. But yeah, we got to release the pain ourselves as well. But
it's intense.
Yeah, but remember, there's really not right or wrong. I mean, that sounds so counterintuitive.
No right or wrong. No judgment.
Everything's just a lesson. We're all eternal beings.
Yep.
You just have to look at it from 40,000 feet in the air.
Exactly.
All right. Don't be hating on me. All right, guys. Thank you, Denise Remorse.
All right, we got a part 3. Let's see. Oh, did I not do my search? Hang on. Did I done? No. Go back. Do I have to do it again? Hang on. Audrey Hale, part 3 of this interview. There we go. And this was a year ago, guys. This was they did this a while ago.
Hello, Courtney. Long time no see.
What?
I know, it's been a while.
No.
I'm back.
Oh, is this...
Hi, everyone.
Oh, okay.
And nice
Eric,
and healthy.
I'm healthy now. Thank you.
Oh,
Eric
so different medium.
Hello to everyone.
And I love you, Eric, of course.
He says he loves
Why?
you too.
Everyone's agreeing to
awesome.
He says he loves you too. So
okay, we are going to finally finish up the rest of the Audrey Hale interview. This is part 3.
Good, different
Just to
medium.
remind you guys, be sure you watch number 1 and number 2. It's on the channel, but she's a 28-year-old who went by the name Aiden and identified as a male, shot and killed 3 9-year-old students and 3 staff members at the Covenant School, a private Christian academy in Tennessee this year, March the 27th. So these are questions, the remainder of the questions from the community. So
Okay, I'm gonna call
Call her in.
her in. I've never met her before, so this is the first time, so.
Okay. Yeah, you thought you were going to interview somebody else,
Nope,
but
it's not.
we
If you
might
don't
do
like it,
that
go
after this
somewhere
one,
else.
so.
Oh, that's okay. I work on the fly, so it's good. Eric Springer, and yeah, she's been around. You guys have talked to her several times, so.
Yeah, we have. Thank you for agreeing to come back in, Audrey. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right,
Um,
go ahead. Anything you want to say first?
No, it does feel like she, I guess is what we'll say, has
Yeah,
some people around her. Hold on a second. She has sibling crossed over.
I don't know. But
Okay,
you know, after she crossed, she did say identify as a girl.
Yeah, she does. She does, absolutely. Because I asked her what she preferred to be called, and she says she.
Okay.
So, she's with a friend, it looks like. And they're standing with her, and
Right.
Eric as
Yeah,
well.
Google it.
So,
Why not, Bob?
anyway, she's
All
ready
right.
for questions.
Thank you. All right, Audrey, at what point in time did you regret, if you did, the shooting, if you ever found feelings of regret? Did you ever?
I'm hearing immediately. It's like, what did I do? It's a feeling of what did I do? It's like I don't know if this was said in the other interviews, okay, but when
I
I'm
don't know.
asking her, probably, when I'm asking her what caused this or what was, one of the things that I'm seeing is some dark energy around her.
Oh, so like negative entities, maybe?
Yeah, it does feel like there is some type of
Oh, come on.
possession that occurs,
Oh,
because I can see it all around.
yeah.
Like I can see it all around her, and I was asking what happened. It looks like there was something that was occurring in which she was dabbling.
Yo. Mike, have you heard the story of what happened when I went to Zach Bagans' museum in Las Vegas? Have you been around for that? So, Zach Bagans has a museum in Las Vegas, and it's like he bought this old house and he has all of his stuff. He has like all of his ghost hunting stuff, and he has like the stairs from Hell House and all this stuff. And so Victor and I went to Vegas because I was speaking at conferences out there. And so Victor and I went to Vegas and renewed our vows at the same time. And so I had a whole Vegas vow renewal with Elvis, and it was awesome and it was the best. And then after Victor and I renewed our vows with Elvis, we went to the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum. And so we're standing in line outside of the haunted museum, and you have to stand in line for a while, so they have like these videos that are playing about all the different things that he has in his haunted museum. And one of the things that he has in the museum is a doll that's like a possessed doll. And the video kept saying, don't look this doll in the eye, just don't look it in the eye, like this doll is massively possessed, don't do it. And so what happens when I go into the room with the doll, I stand right in front of the doll and I start staring the doll right in the eyes. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm more powerful than you. 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 And I just kept doing that. And I was like, and like, it was just like, I was committed. And then the entire room started fucking spinning around me, and I ran away. So the doll won. The doll won that battle. I was legitimately freaked out though. That was some shit. That was crazy. He also has the Dr. Kevorkian van, in which like I actually thought the Dr. Kevorkian van had peaceful energy to it. It wasn't like weird. Anyway, that's the Zach Bagans music. Yeah, doll W me L. It's true.
With the darkness. I don't know what she was doing, but there was some dabbling in the darkness is what I'm seeing. And that it did, and this can happen. So, I'm saying this, she is not, you gotta be careful what you do and get involved with.
Right, with black magic,
Be
divination.
very careful. Yeah, because this is like, I can see some
don't use Ouija
weird
boards.
Symbology, and I don't know what it means, but it feels negative or satanic. And she's showing me that something got in her, got in her.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like from that point on, she was under possession.
Okay. Did you
And
dabble in the dark arts? Is that what you're saying? Or divination? Use divination?
Not directly, but she was doing something that it kind of opened her up to this.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what she's showing me. And also, this is important. When she leaves her body, her physical body, and she's telling me at least that she talked about her transition and that process in the last interview, she's telling me. But what she shows me is when she left her body, she had an awareness that this was connected to her. Like she didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so that's when she began to feel the remorse and regret.
Okay.
Okay.
Did the principal try to stop or confront you? And did she recognize you?
Yes, there's something about the principal. I'm seeing an image of the principal sorry, Eric always says to me, because when you channel, sometimes your face gets itchy. I don't know why, or maybe it's just me. And he's like, "Don't itch your nose." So I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Eric." Just telling him. Yeah, the principal's trying to stop her because the principal feels transitioned.
Yeah, I think
okay, so. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. She's met with the principal on the other side, just so you know.
Okay. Why did your shoes, I didn't know this, why did your shoes change from Pumas to Vans as shown on the police footage?
That's a good question.
The shoes worn in the beginning of the video is not consistent with the footage of the body cam evidence showing Audrey / Aiden. The shoes are completely and very obviously different. Wow.
Yep, I remember that. That's a good question.
She says the story is a fabrication of some sort. That there is somebody did used technology to change the shoes.
Bullshit.
And that in fact she was wearing the same shoes throughout the whole thing.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
All right. What was the first thing you saw or experienced as soon as your soul left your body? Now, of course, you realized that you had some sort of possession. That's one thing. Anything else you want to share?
She says there's a feeling of deep regret, a feeling of, she's not saying this because she's trying to garner sympathy. She's actually very, very intelligent, very articulate. She's not saying this because she's trying to garner sympathy from anyone watching or the victims. Or the families of the victims, most specifically. She's just wants to explain that this was a complete takeover of her physical body. She shows me that when she transitions, it's like a feeling of, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? I keep hearing those words being repeated over and over and over.
Wow. Okay.
It feels like she is met. She does choose. Let me see where she is exactly. She's still here. Is she transitioned all the way? No, she's transitioned.
Okay.
She's transitioned, but she is still working on understanding this decision, because it was obviously the wrong one.
Right. Well, do you feel like you were consciously in your consciousness when you were shooting the people, or was the spirit possessing you? Did they?
No, she had kind of gone. And at the very worst instances of when you are, I don't usually speak about this stuff because it scares people, but this can happen. And she's showing me that, like, really her eyes look hollow and vacant. And she shows me an image of her kind of like hanging out outside of her body.
Almost like the trance channeling, where the spirit can kind of push you to the side or out a little bit.
It's different in that, yes and no, but it feels like she's possessed. She's
Mm,
possessed.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I buy this. I don't think this
When the
doesn't ring
cops
true to
killed
me.
you, did you see any of your victims that were dead in heaven just recently from your shooting them?
Yes. Yes. She's seen all of her victims, and it's part of her rehabilitation program.
Mm.
She wants to say that she's not trying to justify, again, she's not trying to justify what she's done, that she deserves all the judgment being rendered at her, or, you know, rendered. It's, but she has met, she shows me the principal, so that makes sense
Yeah.
that you said the principal's crossed over as well. And then I'm seeing a group, like there's a group and they're all meeting together. So yes.
Well, that's interesting. The one question is, did all 6 cross over together?
No, they are, but it's relatively within relatively short amounts of
Oh,
time.
okay.
Okay, it's not simultaneous, but it feels like it's within a small window of time, so relatively all together. But you know, what she reminds me in this moment is that they don't, once you are just back to soul level, you aren't experiencing time in the same way.
True. Yeah.
You're not experiencing, you're very much more present in the, you know, present. It's not really time in the same way that we measure time down here. So it's
Okay.
like faster, but also slower. I don't know if that
Wow.
makes-
I know it's always a mind bender for me, this whole time on the other side. So, who was the very first person you met when you crossed over? Was it this friend or slash sibling? Was it?
Yeah, she has a female friend who she's standing with right now.
Okay.
So it feels like there is an, I'm asking as a sibling, I get no, so I don't think it's a sibling. It feels like a friend who had crossed over, who's standing there. I also see a group like family members. It feels like her grandmother. Oh, she's showing me the picture, so hold on a second.
Okay.
And she's showing me as if it's through her eyes. She is greeted by her, an angel also.
Hmm.
So she does have a group that greets her. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did the 3 children cross over, or are they going through trauma as a result of the way they died, or are they at peace? And did the adults that were killed help them cross over and provide comfort? So what happened, I guess, with the 3 kids?
I see an image of the children playing, all playing on the other side. There's a little, and I'm sorry if any of this reaches anybody that this is painful to hear. I like to be very mindful of that, but I see a little boy playing in a field with 2 girls, so something like that.
Okay.
And it feels like they are very peaceful. It feels like it's a field and it has yellow sunflowers all around.
Oh.
They have been met by their teams. They are at peace. They are not necessarily needing to go to rehabilitation in the same way that she does.
Okay.
She feels like there is necessary rehabilitation needed for her. Rest and rehabilitation, both of those words, because of the gravity of the choice she made.
Yeah. Well, did the adults that died, did they help the children cross over, or were they doing their own thing?
No, it does look like they are helping them cross over. I also see that, what's that game where they're playing like field games.
Okay.
With
Red Rover.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. I was like, what is that game called? They're just showing me that like it's peaceful, it's happy, it feels like the children are at peace, that they aren't suffering. No. But the adults, I can see the adults, I hear the word ushering, like the adults helped usher them there and through. But you know, it's interesting because after we leave our physical body and go to soul form, we're not so much thinking of children and adults. It's like souls, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously they'll show up as children for this session.
Our
but
interview,
yeah, exactly.
Audrey, have you had your life review yet? And if so, what was it like?
No, there's something that she needs to receive from rehabilitation
Oh,
prior to the life review. Because of the level of possession is what I'm hearing.
oh,
This is
yeah.
a very negative thing to talk about today, but I think
Yeah.
it's coming up for a reason. You
Yeah,
know?
of course.
And because of the level of possession, there is some rehabilitation that she's going through that process right now.
Oh.
And it's like, you know, how rehab is in the United States. She's kind of showing me it's similar. You know,
Oh,
it's like if you need to go, if you are really, you die in a certain way,
yeah.
sometimes you have to go to rehabilitation. Following that, there will be the life review, is what she's showing me.
Okay, so was your decision when you were alive to switch genders, was it maybe because, I'm just putting it out there, because whatever was possessing you had more of a male identity?
That's a good
No,
question.
she's
Nothing to
saying
do
that
with
that
that.
was a no, nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Since 5 years old, she felt, not identified, felt more like female in some way.
Okay.
It was from a very young age. She's starting to understand, like it's not life review, but you can see a wider angle, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's starting to understand, Eric's fine.
You're doing?
That this desire comes from a past life.
Okay, that's the next question I'm going to ask.
Yeah, she knew
What
that.
past? Because you were born a female, right? And then you identified later on as a boy, Audrey Hale, and then you became.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. What she's saying, it's like she, in her recent past life, that was her gender, and so she came in feeling that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
and that actually is the case with some people who feel like they're a different gender.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
That
though.
actually is the case. This can often be like as a result of a past life.
Yeah.
So
Sure, like a bleed through.
mhm.
What past life experience have influenced you for this particular
That makes
lifetime?
sense.
And did you share past life with any of your victims?
Yes, she did share a past life with all of her victims.
Mhm.
This is interesting. She's showing me a factory, like a very industrial revolution.
Okay.
It's a factory, and it feels like it's very hot. There's flames and a furnace. It's
Ugh.
very like horrible working conditions.
Yeah.
They're all working together in this factory, almost like kind of like slaves. Like it feels like indentured servant
Oh
type
my God.
thing.
Yeah.
Now it's not like they make money, but it's like very poor working conditions.
Yeah.
It feels like that was a recent lifetime, and it's not like she's not showing me exactly what happened other than working in this factory, but it's like something, they were all together in this lifetime. So there is, the word I hear is karmic entanglement
Okay.
here.
Interesting.
This was not an easy life for her. I mean, this
Or the
lifetime she
victims probably that incarnated in that life too. Yeah.
No. And the lifetime she just had was not an easy, I mean, I think that goes without saying, but not an easy lifetime for her.
Right.
She feels, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
She feels that there's much to learn. Much to learn.
Okay. So why did working in those horrible conditions have any influence on you doing what you did this most recent life?
what she's showing me is that it's like the people surrounding her are the people she ended up hurting the most.
Oh,
And
okay. In that lifetime, in the
Mhm.
Industrial
Mhm.
Revolution lifetime.
yes, it feels like she said this lifetime in the factory, it
Mhm.
was a matter of survival of the fittest, and people were, it was like clawing at one another and trying to stay alive. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it was
God.
very, very harsh.
It felt like she was the master. She was the boss, making them. They were
Exactly.
all on the same level, right?
Was she the
Employees.
boss? No, she was an employee.
Okay, got it.
But what she shows me is it's that some of that, I get it. Anger, animosity,
That's what I was
hatred.
thinking. I thought
Yes.
that's
Okay,
deep
that's because
anger.
that's what she's trying to show me. She came in with this anger,
Yeah.
animosity, and it's like it needed to be healed, but rather what happened is it kind of like it gets thwarted, and
Yeah.
so that's why this, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Souls are not supposed to be gendered. How did this person, from a soul perspective, explain the feeling to be in the wrong body, and how did the transition help from female to male, if it ever did? So they're really not a gender, right?
No,
It can tend to be more, a little bit more.
no, she doesn't feel, she says it's easier to explain from the perspective she's at now.
Okay.
Interestingly, when she goes, even though she wants to be called she, that's fine.
Mhm.
But when we go to her and you just kind of feel into the energy of this soul,
Yeah.
it that's she's more comfortable with the feeling of being genderless, actually.
Genderless. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the purposes of this conversation, we have to have like a marker or a marking point.
Yeah.
So people understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What are your views from the other side about teens getting the surgery to change sex, like before they're adults? Are they too young to make such a life-altering decision?
She says in general, yes, but her other perspective is that sometimes you just know,
Yeah.
but she wouldn't recommend anybody doing it as a teen,
Okay. What do you think about Massachusetts now wanting to pass being recommended to pass a bill where parents are charged pretty much with child abuse if they don't allow their child,
Ooh, good
even though
question.
they're a minor, go through puberty blockers, transitional surgery, and all that? That they say the parents shouldn't have the work when they're minors.
Okay, as I'm saying this, I want to say to the audience, I just am speaking what she's saying, okay?
Right.
She does, he said, because she said, oh, you're gonna get some hate mail, but that's fine.
Where are you?
She doesn't agree with it. She doesn't think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Because there's a scrambling.
Doesn't think it's a good
It's a
idea.
big decision.
Doesn't think it's a good idea.
It's one you can't go back from.
Yeah.
And and she's not saying anything at all about people who are transgendered, but that it should be made as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, because really your brain doesn't completely develop actually until you're 25. But it's a real conundrum because then it's too late for puberty blockers. So, it's a very complicated issue. It truly is. But, what is your general opinion about transitioning from one sex into another?
Just so everyone is clear, the questions that she's asking comes from her community. So these are like user submitted questions. They're not coming from her.
That there are some people who feel very strongly, such as herself,
Yeah,
that they are a different gender.
yeah. I agree. I mean,
And it's important
fine, so
to
there we go.
honor their choice. So,
agreed.
mhm.
Are you planning on reincarnating soon, Audrey?
Not for a while.
Okay.
First things first. So this program,
Yeah.
and she says she'll take it from there.
In your life review, when it does come, and it eventually will, are you a little nervous, although you probably don't have human emotions, about having to experience what those children and the 3 adults experienced?
Even
talk about
before
that?
you finished answering the question, she said yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Um,
she says she must face the consequences of her choices.
yeah. When you do have your next life, do you have any desires to do anything in particular?
You know, she just says one thing at a time. So it's like she's pretty focused on,
On rehab.
yeah.
Okay. What can the collective do? Society, government policies, gun shops, parents, educational, medical, mental health system do so that this never happens again? I mean, yeah. Okay.
She says, unfortunately, until there is change within people, and both change within people and legislation, that this will continue to happen.
Yeah. Is this person goes on, is this a mental health issue, a gun control issue, or a school security issue? Probably all of the above.
She says all of the above, but she would call it a societal issue. A societal issue.
Can you
And yeah, she feels like very lonely,
oh,
like not right this second, but
Right.
she's taking me back to when she's alive or on the planet. Here it corrects me, 'cause she's like, real life, like, so correct my language. But she takes me back to when she's on the planet. She feels very, very lonely and sort of like not, she has a hard time socially. She has a hard time fitting in. She feels like she can't.
Hang on, this is a good question from Fluffy Cow Respecter. Are most of spiritual people leftists? I mean, listen, I've been involved in spiritual circles for 20 years. Maybe even more than that now. No, I wouldn't say that at all. In fact, like, I mean, it kind of depends. So, here's the thing. Spiritual circles attract weird people. So there are a lot of people who get attracted to this stuff who are like hippie do-gooders, or there are certainly like I wouldn't say leftists in that you might think of like Antifa. Like the people who go to socialist events are not going to be in woo-woo spiritual circles. Those are two completely different groups. But there are certainly more kind of just like hippie, flowery type people who come in, and there are people who are coming in that are really searching for something, that they just want to be good people and they think this is what they need to do to be good people. And there are people that come in and they kind of bounce around to different spiritual things, and eventually there are people that come. There's like not an insignificant like spiritualist to Christian pipeline where like they're not really they're more doing it from like a self-validation exercise than from like a true and sincere belief exercise. And when they don't get what they need from the woo, they go to Christianity, and then they reform, and like and they kind of keep it. So there's a ton of different people who are involved in spiritual circles. What I will say is that a lot of the events that I've been to personally tend to be more conservative people, but I also, so the things that I've been to tend to be more upscale than not upscale. And so like when you're dealing with things like, I've paid thousands of dollars to go to meditation retreats, and well worth it. I would not do anything differently. Like they were awesome. I learned a lot. I got a lot out of it. But like you're not going to attract kind of like people who don't have money to these higher end events. So I think just by virtue of the fact that I've been to like more higher end events, I've tended to be around more people who were maybe not conservative, but definitely more right leaning than left leaning. I will also say though that like you're kind of not allowed to talk about that. You like politics isn't really described, like politics isn't really something that's discussed in these circles because you're more so focused on yourself and what you're getting out of it and, you know, kind of woo woo. So that's the end. I would not say it's overwhelmingly leftist by any means.
Just kind of like an outsider, that sort of
Like, not
energy.
acknowledge your existence. You can feel like
Exactly. And
it's
so
not.
a lot of people, a lot of, she's correcting me, teens feel this way right now. Not necessarily even because of, because of
Yep,
COVID,
that's correct.
because of the pressures put on them. Social media is creating this intense.
Hang on, that is correct about the Akashic Records. I wonder if there is a way to give info that actually does not exist yet once you pass through or pierce the veil, and if not, is it a way to... So, I mean, I don't know how you detect if it's a fraud. Like, I think it's like one of those things where it's like, things will either ring true or they will not ring true. The Akashic Records is the repository of all possible human knowledge ever. You can access it. You can access it through meditation. You can access it through psychedelics. I know people who have. I personally have never accessed. I've tried to access the Akashic Records, but I think I can't. My big challenge that I'm learning in this lifetime is to let go. And I think I haven't been able to let go enough to do what's required to like access the Akashic Records. But I know people who have. So that's a thing too.
Loneliness for
it's a big epidemic of loneliness. Absolutely.
I would love to though.
Yeah, and that is really like the crux of the issue. It's the crux. It's this. It's not. It's guns, that they have access to guns and they're angry, but it's just this loneliness. It's horrible. You know, so we really, that's the issue.
I mean, when I was a kid, we used to play outside with all the neighbor kids and we used to go pick Mr. Delaney's snails off of his plants and put them in a wagon and sell them to people in the neighborhood, including back to him. We used to have so much fun together. But they don't do that anymore. It's too unsafe. It probably is. I mean, crime is up. I mean, it's really hard to let kids from very young age just go out and be free range chickens, so to speak, you know?
Yeah.
And they get isolated in their laptops and their video games and all that stuff. And they don't develop the social skills of compromise and of developing and maintaining friendships and understanding social cues and leadership and how to follow. All that kind of stuff just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, this intense loneliness is what needs to be addressed with people who are young, for sure. And creating community, that's really what's lacking right now. People feel, and even adults feel isolated. You know,
we don't see our neighbors. You know, we used to have our doors open. The neighbors would come in, and when I was growing up and stuff, and some people don't even know their neighbors that have been living next door to them for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's so strange and sad. Erica, what's your perspective on it too?
He shows me that over the next 5 years, a lot is going to be starting to shift. Okay. In the United States, but that's what he's talking about right now. And it will be a necessity for communities to start to form. And so he's showing me this map of just the US, and I know it's people all over the world, but he's just showing me US. And what happens is, like, he shows me like little dots and it looks like pockets of people. It's like communities begin to come together to support one another. And I actually keep seeing like food, like around food, like farming and community, like getting food, access to food.
Will it be like a natural disasters that cause that need to?
They're talking about communism.
To come together as you know, as
they just
society
don't know it.
As a community to survive.
They're talking about communism.
You know, the evolution of the new earth, that we're going to be, you know, a unity conscious, not a contrast conscious.
We're so fucked. We're so
Well,
fucked.
he says both is the answer to your question, but both because
We are never not going to be
there are
fucked.
disasters that have they kind of like open people's hearts and they start to bring people together.
Yeah.
So there will be quite a
Sober.
few more disasters over the next 5 year span. He's not saying this to scare anybody. He's just saying it to
Sober.
create awareness that there is like an actual change on the planet happening, and
Yeah.
we as a result of the change will come together.
Will it be more like, crops are going to be destroyed, or is it going to be
No, it will be
population
like
kind of stuff, depopulation?
no, he's not saying that. He's saying it's
Okay.
more like food will be accessible in grocery stores still, but it feels like we may not be able to get certain things in the same way. I can see there's some things available, but then some things we can't get, or it's very expensive. Like
Yeah,
things we
that's
want
happening already.
right, but
now.
it feels like it continues to happen, and then people say, you know what, they take this into their own hands.
So
They
fucked.
take it into their own hands, so they start coming
Sober.
together, growing food,
Okay.
skills like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he's showing me there's like a whole group in the South that's already doing this in the South.
Wow. Well, that would be Michelle in her place. I'm just kidding, but she has she's out in the country. She has chickens and ducks.
Right. But that's already happening
Yeah.
in some parts of the United States, and in Arkansas, he says there's a group right now
Oh,
that's coming together. So there are already pockets in Texas. There's groups forming. They're already Georgia, he says. So Southern United States is really actually leading the charge on this. Who knew?
why is that? Is it because of climate? Because it's easier to grow stuff and things?
There's a
We should get a medium to tell us about socialism.
Southern
probably should.
mentality.
Probably
that-
should.
Oh, maybe Southern hospitality.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, that's what he's saying. Not mentality, excuse me, hospitality.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of like it's just we take care of each other. That's the attitude.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
I'm never kind of stranger, that kind of thing. They've got that mentality, yes.
well, and also there is increasing, we don't need to get into all of this today, but there's increasing distrust of like the government's actually going to take care of us,
Yeah.
particularly in the South happening. So
Yeah.
Why is
it's
that? Because they're
You
more
think so?
conservative?
among other reasons, but yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Yeah. I remember this one. There used to be this show called "What Would You Do," and where they have plants, actors that are planted and stuff. And so they set it up in this cafe where these two actresses were pretending to be a lesbian parents of a child, and one actress playing the waitress was awful to them. Oh my God, it's really just anti-gay, it was awful. It just made me cringe. And this was in New York, actually. Nobody came to the rescue except for Texans. On each time they did this, a Texan came up. Miss, we don't treat other people like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Bless your little heart. Anyway, I thought that was quite interesting and made me proud to be a Texan.
Well, so
Yeah.
that's what's happening. It is going to change things.
Yeah.
It is.
Why all these shootings, school shootings, mass shootings? Why in America? I don't know, what is it? It's so embarrassing, and the world's horrific, of course, but what is going on? Why us? Why this country?
I'm asking Eric his perspective. He's we live in this country. He says we have a pernicious, it's a big word for him, but he's saying it, culture of violence.
Yeah, that's terrible. Why?
And all the reasons that that she was describing, it's feeling disconnected. It's not seeing neighbor as a person that is important. It's like this disconnection. It's feeling there's anger. There's a lot of anger that's unhealed within a lot of people. It's coming up. And then, there's more access.
Maybe we
to
should.
Yeah.
weapons.
Are you saying it's almost like an ancestral DNA or old karma built into the American society from many lives?
Karma, I guess we could call it, or the ancestral anger is coming up right now very strongly in this country. And it's coming up to be healed and
Okay.
transmuted.
Hmm.
So that's part of it. He's also showing me video games randomly. Like he's showing me like
No,
there is
no.
programming, I think, that happens
No.
in these video games that
Bullshit.
are violent and TV shows, and it's just like it kind of like deadens something within us.
Audrey,
you know?
did you play a lot of video games, violent video games?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that contributed, at least in a small part?
100%. Yes.
Wow. All right. From your perspective on the other side, do you see, Audrey, any value to banning or playing restrictions like licensing, required training, insurance, or I think, psych evaluations on assault? I don't think we need assault weapons. Okay. But what do you think about it from your perspective? And Eric, you can join in too.
Yes, there should absolutely be restrictions. From her perspective, there should be
Boo.
restrictions
Nope.
on weapons.
Denied.
Particularly assault weapons. It's
Yeah.
almost like, why even have
Why do you need
people?
Because
Exactly.
they're fun.
You hunt, you can use rifle,
Because
bow
they're
and arrow,
fun.
whatever. I don't
Shooting an
understand, but I'm
AR-15
gonna
is
get
fun.
in trouble with this. But
It's fun.
As a physician, I'm all about
I want to be able to own
preventing
whatever gun I
death
want.
in people. So
I want to be able to own a fucking cannon if I
Eric,
want to own
what
a
do you
cannon.
think? Do you think assault weapons should be banned?
Shooting AR-15s is fun.
He thinks assault weapons in particular don't have a valuable place in
No,
our
fuck
country.
you. Fuck you,
Do you
Eric.
think, Eric, that this would have occurred if assault weapons had been banned?
Yes.
He's like, I don't know, ask her.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I should ask you, Audrey. I'm sorry.
Likely, yes, because we could have found something else.
Other
So,
guns, etc.
yeah.
Okay. All right. What would be the long-term
Bullshit.
effect of having sensible gun reforms in place?
Yeah, Eric is already dead. Eric doesn't get a
Would it make
vote
a
on
difference?
guns.
Crime and everything.
Eric is already
school
dead.
shootings,
We
mass
don't care about
shootings?
his opinion anymore.
Eric says that there is a happy medium in this debate.
Okay.
Actually, because there's, and people have very strong opinions about this,
Yeah.
right? And rightly so. I'm not trying
Oh
to say
yeah,
anything,
I agree. Yeah.
but there's people that really, he's flashing on the South again, that really feel like it's taking away their liberty and their freedom and and
Yeah.
all of that.
Correct.
And then there's people that are just like, all these people are dying.
Yeah.
There is some place
Correct.
Gotta
in
be.
between.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like part of the issue is that we have so much division that we can't come together and come to an agreement on what would be like reasonable, actually reasonable. It's like, it's not as easy to get certain types of weapons.
Yeah.
And
One idea I thought of a long time ago that would be a great invention. I kind of wanted to do it. It was too complicated. Is every gun that's created, make it such that it can be completely disabled via Wi-Fi from the police or whatever.
No.
But if you
No.
mess with it, try to take it
No.
off, then
That's a bad idea.
the gun wouldn't function
No.
anymore. So if you have a shooter, just code,
No.
and every teacher could have it.
I don't want to give I don't want to give no government
guy,
the
I
right
guess.
to turn
Probably
off any of
stupid.
my guns. That's a really
What
bad
do you
idea.
think, and
It's a
how do you
bad
think
idea.
teachers and staff can do to help?
We've gone
That's
off
just
the
one more
rails in this
question.
afterlife
Eric
interview.
says this is not teachers' responsibility.
I know.
And this is actually a big issue. A teacher's
Bad
responsibility is to educate
Bad
and teach.
psychics.
Yeah.
So this needs to not actually be their responsibility.
Yeah.
So
What about having retired police officers, retired security people, retired veterans?
Eric's chiming in.
Listen,
He says it may help. That may help. However, we are not he shows me a big wound, like on a battleground. We are not cleaning out the wound.
Yeah, yeah. The whole, like you said, the loneliness and the predication to violence and the violent past, and from one generation to the next. Yeah,
He's chiming in that this is the most important thing for people to hear. He says you can watch this video and you can get mad and feel like they're not, they're not agreeing with my point of view. I mean, he says,
Hang on. Would I say that spiritual communities are more attractive to women than men? No. No, actually, no, I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, again, and I can only go based on the things that I've been involved with directly, but in every single thing that I've been involved with directly, there's been a pretty even split of men and women. Honestly. And honestly, some of the nicest guys, like the like I've met some of like the nicest men and women, but like just really genuinely good fucking guys at these spiritual things. And like they're self-aware and they're introspective and they're kind and they're empathetic and they're just good people. And so I know it definitely has not been my experience that it's been majority woman. I know why you think that, but that just really hasn't been my experience. And I mean, and a lot of people do this stuff as couples, right? Because like, you want to find people that you share spiritual beliefs with. So a lot of like husbands and wives will go to the same things, and they do it as a way to spend time with each other. Sometimes they do it as like a vacation, it's an activity or like whatever. And so, yeah, I don't agree with that. We're almost done, guys. Got 5 minutes left. Hang in.
people don't always understand.
Good night, Nick. Have a good
people
one.
who are channeling, they think it's them.
Yeah.
So he's saying, or you could watch this video and say, what anger do I have within myself that needs to heal?
Yeah.
Not because you want to go out and kill somebody. He actually just says the majority of people watching this, that's never an idea in their head.
Of course, yeah.
But because that is what is going to heal this problem.
Yeah.
That we each individually take responsibility for our
advice.
own emotions,
Real
our
good
own
advice.
anger, and heal it. Our own pain, our own trauma, and that's what shifts this.
Yeah. And connecting to others that need help too. I mean, if people are lonely, I feel like there are things you can do to help with the loneliness. Join community things, volunteer, even go to church. Even if you're not religious, a lot of these people some people go to church just because it's a social thing to do, and they can help with certain missions and volunteer and all that. So I'm not an organized religion person, but there is value in the community that some congregations have, depending on
and Eric is saying that it's really important for young people today, and he works with a lot of young people.
Yeah, true. Hot
I was
women are in
smiling
spiritual
because
circles.
a person who's young didn't know about channeling Eric, and he like started showing up to him, like, and then he found, he found me before he knew about. Anyway, it was just like he gets in contact with people in interesting ways.
Busybody.
Yeah, but he works with a lot of young people. Remember, it's not okay if you're suffering or having suicidal thoughts to reach out, tell people something's wrong, because he's saying it's like, it can be like thought loops,
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Last question. What do people need to understand about trans folks from a spiritual perspective, other than what we've already said, of course?
Eric chimed in and he says, we're all trans. Like this idea that, we're in physical bodies.
That doesn't mean what you think it means.
But we've all been male. We've all been female. We've all been, whatever.
Every sexual orientation. We've been
exactly. So to remember to see people as souls. That's what he says.
Oh, I like that.
She says, she agrees. And she also says that, and she mentioned this, but that a lot of times the you know, the inclination is coming from a past life.
Yeah.
And so that's important to understand.
Realize that. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. And that's true with sexual orientation too. You know, yeah, we've talked about that many times before. Audrey, would you like to share anything else before we close?
She just says that she's deeply sorry for the pain that she's caused, and that's what she wants to offer today.
Okay. Well, I wish you well with your rehabilitation and all that. I also wish the victims well and send them love and healing energy. And Eric, is there anything you want to add to it at all?
No,
Okay.
he's showing me a soapbox, and like he was on his soapbox, like, you know,
I know,
he's
you
joking.
did.
Yeah. But he's getting off now. But no, he hopes people can take this message to heart about healing their own anger.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
actually that's a really good point to end on. So he didn't say that we're all non-binary, but what he basically said is like every single one of us has lived past lives before. Every single one of us, probably if we choose to, you don't have to, but we'll live more lives after this. We will live lives as men. We will live lives as women. He didn't say we would live lives as like something that's not male or female. Masculine energy and feminine energy is a thing. So we've been men before. We've been women before. We will be men and women again. Just depends. All right, guys, that is going to wrap us up for tonight's episode of DISENRAGE. I thought that was a pretty good episode. I didn't like the mediums. Now that said, you can always get pieces of wisdom and like, so that's kind of like what I was listening for, was more like, you know, what sort of like, and I think the advice about like letting go of anger, making sure we're taking care of ourselves, that sort of thing. I think that was good. I thought some of the stuff about the collective consciousness was good. I don't know, like I didn't like that she went right towards like it was demon energy, because I just didn't. Maybe, but I don't know, that to me didn't ring true, but maybe it was. Maybe I'm wrong. I certainly could be. But we will be back next week with Jennifer doing something different, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, that's all I've got for tonight, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 5. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.